attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's talk, and appreciate you spending some time on this. There's some really interesting material here that we'll go through, and I think a really very interesting and beneficial opportunity here for all of us. So I'm kind of excited to talk to you. We also have on our line that you'll be hearing from today Harry and Ann from the Intelligent Health Association, who have been putting on the Intelligent Hospital Pavilion and Intelligent Pharmacy Pavilion that we'll be talking about today for a number of years. Been highly successful at very, very large conferences. It's a very impressive exhibit and draws a lot of people. So I hope that you're duly impressed by what you'll see. So I'll go through this. At times I'll pause if you do have questions, because we're on mute, because there's a lot of people on the phone. If you go to in the go to webinar section for questions and type in your question there, I'll pause at certain points and read back the questions and get those to you. And then we'll also give you some information near the end for if you got questions after the presentation. So again, this is really about us working together for a common cause and also benefiting our companies individually. I think what's interesting about what we're doing here around the virtual environment and also the physical environment that you'll see at the ASHA conference through the Intelligent Hospital Pavilion is companies gathering together to not only talk about their individual message, but the overall message of technology and its benefit toward healthcare. And so while it's nice to stand in the middle of an exhibit floor all by yourself and talk about your product, it really makes more information available, makes a bigger impact on what's possible versus what's feasible when we all band together and talk about integrated solutions. So I'd like to just talk a little bit about RC Partners, and I'll give Harry a minute or a couple minutes to talk about the Intelligent Healthcare Association. But I'll talk about RC Partners, about the CollaborationLabs and showcases, just to give you an idea of what they are, how they work, and then I'd like to talk about the actual events. There are two events that we're looking at for the virtual part of this. One is the HDMA event that occurs in October around track and trace, and the main event, if you will, is the ASHP event, which is a very large event for pharmacists and gives us a great opportunity to start to educate that part of the supply chain on what's taking place, not only with the SCSA, but what's taking place in general with technology and its effect on healthcare. So RC Partners, I've been working with the pharmaceutical supply chain since 2003. I was brought in to specifically address the issues that were occurring at that time in Florida around track and trace and authentication of counterfeit pharmaceuticals, and then been working together with the community over the years to develop a number of standards and guidelines for, at first, state regulations, California, Nevada, and of course California, and then the federal regulation of the SCSA, and was able to help the community and work with the community to develop a comprehensive guideline on how to comply with that. Since starting RC Partners back in November 2014, I've been working on, of course, standards and helping companies understand both standards, the DSCSA and UDI regulations, and how to comply. We've developed a number of products that we call CollaborationLabs and shared showcases or virtual showcases, and also seminars on education purposes. Today I'll be talking about virtual showcase at ASHP and HDMA around how we can work together to show and educate on supply chain in a, I think, an interesting way, in a healthy way. So with that, before I go into my next piece, if I could just ask Harry to introduce the Intelligent Health Association, so you have an idea of this partnership that we have together in what you'll see at the ASHP event.
Good morning. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, RC Partners. We're very excited to be working with RC Partners. Just wanted you to know that we have a long, very successful partnership with Bob Celeste when he was with EPC Global, today known as GS1. So I'm very pleased that we're continuing our business relationship. The Intelligent Health Association is a global technology-centric, vendor-neutral, technology-agnostic educational association. And the association is really focused on the adoption of technologies in the health community around the world. We started out with the RFID and Healthcare Consortium 8 years ago, which continues to be very active within the framework of the Intelligent Health Association. But we work with all the technologies, so whether it's robotics or whether it's the new Bluetooth low energy on your iPhone 6 or RFID or wireless or mobile devices, these and many other technologies make up the Intelligent Health Association. And as many of you know, none of these technologies can exist on their own. There's an interface that's required between a 2D barcode and an RFID passive tag and an NFC application on the new iPhone 6. So we're dedicated to helping the end user community in all areas of the health care system to better understand the adoption of these technologies and how can these technologies bring about improved patient care, patient safety, and bring about more operating efficiencies. How does the technology affect process change, people change? So through educational programs, we're able to deliver our message. Our more successful event is held at HIMSS every year. We're now going into the 6th year in Las Vegas next year. And if you have come to HIMSS, you have seen our huge destination pavilion. And this past year, we had 9 hospital demo rooms, along with our Intelligent Home, iHome. And again, we're using this platform to help the health community better understand how technologies can interface with existing hospital technologies, existing software for improved patient engagement and improved outcomes. And last year, we, by invitation, started our first new vertical with the American Society for Hospital Pharmacists. And Ann, can you jump in and give our listeners a snapshot of what the IPP is?
I'd be happy to. Thanks, Harry. Good morning, everyone. The Intelligent Pharmacy Pavilion is a smaller version of what we do at HIMSS. Last year we had an 8,000 square foot pavilion. And what makes it unique and why people have turned it into the destination pavilion is that what we do is we'll get upwards of 20 sponsors, vendors, to work together to set up very realistic demonstration rooms. This year we'll have a supply chain room, we'll have a distribution pharmacy, a facility pharmacy, compounding lab, and we also have some patient areas and outpatient areas set up. And so when someone comes to visit, they can take a tour. It's a scripted tour. It's an audio tour enhanced with some video. We have actors. And you receive a headset, and you can take a tour. If it's a supply chain tour, you spend a lot of time in the supply chain room learning about the technology and the systems at play from the time something is shipped from a manufacturer to be received at a hospital, and you can see the entire supply chain right to the patient bedside. And so you have an ability to come to one pavilion, see a lot of solutions, see them working together. So there's a lot of sort of aha moments for people because they suddenly get it, how it fits into the entire stream of the supply chain. And so it works very, very well. Visitors really like it because it truly is an educational experience. It's not a lot of advertisements. We try to have virtually no advertisements as part of our tours. It's simply education, understanding the products, the solutions, and how they reduce errors, improve outcomes, and so on. So it's a strong focus just on education. And then what happens after a 20-minute tour is there are kiosks in the pavilion and demonstration areas where you can go and learn more. So once you've understood the solution or product in context, you can then go visit the vendor and have an informed conversation about what you've seen and any questions you might have. So it's a model that works extremely well, and as Harry has just said, every year it just grows. We tend to double in size almost every year due to the popularity of it. So we're very excited this year to have a big focus on the Drug Supply Chain Security Act, and we have a special section of a pavilion outside of the demonstration areas where we will be talking about it, but we'll also have another area within the pavilion where you can come and you can run different scenarios and understand the impact of the Act on the processes throughout the supply chain. So I'll turn it back, I guess, now to Bob to tell you a little bit more about how we're going to make that happen.
Great. Thanks, Ann. Thanks, Harry. And I think just an underline to what was just said there is that, again, to that one slide ahead with Henry Ford, was it's nice that each one of us have products and solutions that are available, but it's very difficult for the hospitals to understand them. They can understand the value, but understanding them in context makes the sale. And that's where I think the IPP, the pavilion itself, really shows context and how it works, how your products work with other products to add to the whole of better patient safety and care. So to that, and I always have this slide in my presentations, is really about why we're doing all this besides earning livings and all of that. Is that really there is an underlying need here, and that is to protect the patient. In the case of DSCSA, no one deserves to get their medications from the guy that you see on the right, whether that's a counterfeit, a diverted product, a stolen product, or a product that's just been mishandled in the supply chain. So the question is, with all of the conferences that are available throughout the year, and these are just a handful. These are the ones I've spoken at in the last 2 years, and I'm sure there's at least twice as many of these that are going on. Very, very large ones and very small ones that are sometimes people write off some of the smaller ones because there are just so many of them, but those are the ones where you get to really talk one-to-one with a lot of companies, and they're very good events, but it does cost money to be there, and it costs money to ship your people and your product samples and what have you to those events. So what you're seeing here is a great collaboration between physical environment and a interoperable virtual environment that we can drop in many places and represent your products and services, even if you are unavailable to be actually at the event. So this is, I think, a very interesting thing. I think it's one thing that people told Harry a number of years ago he couldn't do, and he just went ahead and did it, and it works, and it's very impactful when people see the event. So think about not only these two events that I'm about to talk about, but all the events that are going to occur in 2016 and the opportunity to be part of those events. So I'm going to back up a little bit, and I'm talking about the virtual showcases. And again, I'm talking about two events this year, HDMA and ASHP. And so what are we doing? So we've developed what I believe is a unique exhibit for both of these conferences that you could be part of. So essentially, we're bringing a wall of monitors to both events. Here's the wall. We're going to show a simulation of the pharmaceutical supply chain. Now this, what you see here is a very, very simple one. We're going to have very complex ones and ones that we can focus on different areas, which I'll show you in a minute. And we're going to be highlighting products and solutions that can help companies implement for DSCSA. Those are your products and your solutions. So as people get a better understanding of the supply chain, how medications make their way through the supply chain. Now, you know, as solution providers and as manufacturers and wholesalers, you have a good understanding of the nuances and the complexity of a global pharmaceutical supply chain. It's not always apparent to some folks who may not be part of that whole supply chain. So we are showing the complexity of it. We are showing some of the simplicity of it by stepping back and looking at it entirely, and then showing where, again, context for your products and services. So first, the HDMA event, it occurs in October of 14 this year. And of course, HDMA has been at the middle or at the center of a lot of the track and trace discussion over the past 12 years or so. And they have a 2015 traceability seminar. It usually attracts about 1,500 people. And really, this is where a lot of the manufacturers, large manufacturers and wholesalers, large and medium-sized wholesalers gather to have discussions around traceability, have discussions around the global architecture that's needed to support global traceability, and also discussions about the SCSA. So it is an important conference. Again, 1,500 people. They do have an exhibit floor. It's based on tabletops, and I think that what we're about to bring to this conference is going to be very, very interesting if you've ever seen kind of tabletop things. In order to see, what you're going to see is kind of a wall of monitors. Now, what we're bringing to each of these conferences is scalable. So 1,500 people at HDMA, 20,000 people at ASHP. Obviously, the scale of the actual presentation will be much different, but I think that helps bring the appropriate scale to each of these kind of conferences and be able to highlight your products and services. The ASHP event, I'll spend a little bit more time on this event because it's an interesting one from the perspective of the size, obviously, but also who is at the event. And I want you to consider both the audience, which is clinical in nature, pharmacists, who may have no idea of supply chain or how things come through or what they need to do or how now, because of the DSCSA law, supply chain and the FDA will be interacting with the pharmacists directly for the first time, possibly. Also at this conference, if you consider the folks who are exhibiting, this is the picture of the conference floor, and you see a lot of space out there. There's a lot of booths. And so even though pharmacists may not be your target audience, I'm sure that people on this floor are. And so you see right there in the circle there, that's the Intelligent Pharmacy Pavilion. I think looks like the largest booth area. It's centrally located. It's got one entrance and one exit, so it's very well controlled with people coming in and out. It's very well staffed. Again, as Ann put forward, there are a number of rooms that you walk through, and there are actors that are dressed like doctors and nurses, and they're going about their daily routine while either monitors or other folks are talking through what's happening in the room, what products, what services are they using them, why, how they connect together. Very impactful. If you look at all those other booths, each one is individually talking about their product, but not in the context that the folks who are walking through this conference are looking for. They're looking for some attachment to their daily jobs, and I think the Intelligent Pharmacy Pavilion makes that connection for them. And so having your products and services represented in that pavilion really makes a whole lot of sense as far as your dollars spent on cost and return. So 20,000 people, pharmacy professionals from 36 different countries. So this is not only national but global. It's centrally located. It's got a very big footprint. It's got a lot of signage in the area. It attracts a lot of people. Inside of there, what we'll be doing from a virtual showcase is, if you can think about it, walking through a process. You want to start with the supply chain. So where did the medication come from? And that's where the virtual part of this that we're talking about here it comes into play. That will show how the product, how the drug is developed by the manufacturer, how it moves, or possibly created by a contract manufacturer, and moves through the supply chain to wholesalers, to repackagers, up into the pharmacy warehouse, possibly if we're talking about a large pharmacy or a large company, and then down into the pharmacy. From there, you step out from the virtual environment into a real world, into a room where those pharmaceuticals arrive after delivery. And now you are going to walk through a series of rooms and follow the medication through the hospital to the patient, and see how technology is interacting with staff and with each other. And that technology could be your technology if you become involved. So it's very impactful, drives a lot of audience, not only to the conference, but to this particular venue inside of the middle of that exhibit floor. Tells a very good, complete story of how pharmaceuticals go from manufacturer to patient, and all of the technology that's involved in that, and the regulation in particular that's involved in that, and how it impacts the way work will be done in the future. So just an underline that we will have the virtual showcase, what I'm about to show you, at this particular event. I think it's going to be pretty exciting and hold a lot of conversations as we're there. So I'd like to step back just a little bit, and when we talk about these virtual showcases, how are they built? How do we put together? How do we work with you, with the folks who have products and services to build these things and make these things, and how do we fund them? If we look at, we've got two areas here that we work with. One is CollaborationLabs, and the other one is virtual showcases. So you'll hear these words back and forth. And what's unique about them, again, it's about us coming together to do something together. And in that, you see here, we share cost and we share the benefits. So no one company bears all of the cost. And of course, no one company will share all the benefits. Sometimes you don't have any benefits if you try to go it alone. Collaboration labs are really about discovery, experimentation, and proof of concept. So you'll see a little bit of that in this particular one. This one is a little bit different in that we're doing more education. So we build reference models based on using simulation software. And for this particular one, the focus is more on education than it is about discovery, although the people being educated will come about some discoveries, I'm sure, of their own. It is also about market development, because as we're talking about supply chain, how it's changing, and how it's evolving based on some of the regulations and some new business practices and the global marketplace becoming smaller, it really starts to look at how we can develop markets together, again, about connecting your products with the changing supply chain. A virtual showcase, on the other hand, takes that reference model that was developed in a collaboration lab. Now, the reference model in a collaboration, coming out of a collaboration lab, may be a little rough, have a little rough edges around it. Again, it's about discovery. It's not about publication. And a virtual showcase then kind of puts the shine on that reference model. It'll add some dialogue about how to interpret what you're seeing, some guidance around how to use the model. It'll also tell a story that's particular to a particular event or place. So, for example, the virtual showcase that we show at HDMA will be focused more on manufacturers and wholesalers,
and we'll work mostly with that end. It'll tell the story of the dispensers and other folks in the supply chain, but it'll have a particular focus to it. Whereas the virtual showcase that we bring to ASHP, although it's based on the original reference model from the Collaboration Lab, will focus more on the end of the supply chain, the dispensers, the hospitals, and that area. So you'll see more detail in that area. And I think that's a nice thing. Even though we've got a reference model that talks about an entire supply chain, we're able to dive in or examine different pieces of it, depending on what audience we're in front of, and tell appropriate stories to that audience. So this is a example of a simulation. This is a very simple one. This one is focused, as you can see, mostly on the dispenser end of the supply chain. You can see the lack of detail in the contract manufacturer and the manufacturer, and the detail, and I'll show you, I'll zoom in a little bit on the dispenser or the hospital itself. So we're able to provide information about other parts of the supply chain and then focus on the one that we're presenting at. But simulations allow us to explore many avenues of thought very quickly. If during that collaboration lab someone has an idea, what if we were to do ABC, rather than spending a tremendous amount of money and time on physically making that happen and testing it, we can make some simple changes in the simulation, make a copy of a simulation, make some changes, and then compare the two and really get a good understanding of what we would project, the differences being if we did it one way versus another. And so we could go through a lot of iterations of what ifs in a very short period of time at a very low cost. We could test scenarios you may not want to test in real life, and I list a couple here. Certainly, we don't want to actually put counterfeit product into a supply chain, even a pilot supply chain, because sometimes products leak out of these pilots and get into the overall community. But in a simulation, sure, we could test counterfeits all day long, and we could test diversion, we could test stolen product, we could test product that's been mishandled. We also probably don't want to be testing patient adverse events. We certainly don't want to be triggering any. I'm not sure that would actually be legal or not. But in a simulation, we certainly can trigger that. We can trigger, for example, if we're looking at recall events. Of course, when a manufacturer issues a recall, the product is already out in the marketplace, and it may have a pretty good head start. It may be out there for a couple of months or maybe even a year or two. And so patients are being administered those products on a day-to-day basis, hour by hour, until that recall makes its way through the supply chain. And so we could actually show the differences in processes and speed to stop administering and dispensing recalled product. It provides insight into behavior. So each one of these objects that are occurring actually has a behavior based on rules that are assigned by the industry, by the participants, and so they behave a certain way, and they'll react to new input a certain way, much like we do and our systems do. So it's a good way of seeing how things would occur if we were to make changes in different parts of it. And it's kind of like the butterfly effect, where if something happens in one area, how does it affect somebody so far away we haven't made the connection? Simulations will make those connections. We could connect them to actual systems. We could take output from a company and push it into the simulation and see whether that data, almost see if that data complies to standards and whether the simulation can absorb and use that data or not, to provide a better idea of, for example, whether a company is ready for a pilot. Pilots are very expensive, and you don't want to spend a lot of time at the beginning of a pilot working out very simple things such as formats of dates or size of data fields, things like that. You can test that all against the simulation. So here's a zoom in of that simulation. And again, like I said, this is healthcare provider focused, so you see more detail in the provider area, but you also see where the medication came from and some of the nuances. And so there may be some very interesting questions from a viewer of this particular simulation, maybe a pharmacist, to say, oh, I don't understand the repackaging thing. What's going on there? And there's enough detail to explain the interaction and the business process between that repackager and that wholesaler. That maybe they've never even realized that some of their pharmaceuticals have been repackaged and they're not in the original manufacturer's packaging. But let's take a look at this dispenser just to look at some detail. And again, even though this may look detailed, it's really not a very detailed simulation as we've put together before now. So this is just a very quick look at a hospital product coming into pharmacy, moving throughout the pharmacy, possibly being moved up into the OR for an operation or into the emergency room. It could be an outpatient pharmacy. It could be at bedside. We're also seeing patient flow in this particular model. We see patients come in from the parking lot, oops, sorry about that, and go through the main entrance and either go to OR, emergency, or where have you. They may end up in a bed, unfortunately. They may end up in the morgue. But these are things that occur in a hospital, and in order to test adverse events, we can do some work on that area. And so this is just a general look as far as DSCSA is concerned of how medication may be extended, or rather the identification of medication and tracking of it could be extended from DSCSA, which ends at the pharmacy, right down to the patients. If I was to run this, you would see things move around that represent physical products, that represent information, and we capture all the information out of the simulation for a period of time. You see the clock up here that'll run for a week, a month, a year, depending on how long you want to run it, and we'll produce the data for that period of time. And then we can take that data, and we do take that data, we analyze it, and we provide you reports back on what's happening, depending on the metrics that we've agreed on before building the simulation. So let's just talk about the process of doing this. So we've got Collaboration Labs that, again, about discovery, about building these simulations. What will our focus be on a particular simulation? What do we need to bring together? What metrics are we trying to hit? So our first one is, we've got two that will be at each of these events that we've talked about. The first one is around pharmaceutical supply chain education. Plain old education on how drugs move through the global supply chain. Not DSCSA based, but just to have an understanding that these are the players in the supply chain. That may not be apparent to a pharmacist. So before we get into DSCSA, we need to explain, how does the supply chain look and feel today? Out of that collaboration lab, if you were to participate in it, one thing that will come out of it will be we'll take the reference model, that simulation, we'll publish it online, so you can exercise it online. You could show it at meetings. You could show it to customers or suppliers, and that'll be available to the participants online. We'll also take it and move it into what we're calling showcase tailoring. And again, like I said before, we'll tailor that and polish up that reference model for the audience that we're going to bring it to. So again, HDMA, more manufacturer, wholesaler focus, ASHP, more probably wholesalers, and obviously pharmacy representation, so you'll see more focus on that area. As far as funding the collaboration labs and the showcases, we do have a funding model that incorporates 3 different levels, an underwriter to the collaboration lab or showcase, a sponsor, and a supporter, different levels, so that different companies of different sizes can participate. There's a lot of players in the supply chain, a lot of supporters in the supply chain, large and small, and we need everyone to be participating in order for all of this to work. If we look at the second piece that will be shown at both of these events or virtual event will be the specific to DSCSA. So if they've gone through and understood the first one, they get a basic understanding of supply chain. This second one says now there's a law that's been written on the U.S. supply chain, and each of the players have responsibilities under that law, and so we'll expose those responsibilities in the virtual environment. In that simulation, we'll show where today you receive a product and it has a linear barcode on it, and it's just a product ID. In 2017, you're going, and even today you'll start to see this, but you'll see a two-dimensional barcode. This is the kind of information inside of it. This is the kind of information that needs to be passed, held, and retrieved by each of the trading partners. These are the SOPs that need to be written by each of the trading partners. So you'll see the impact of the law building on that basic supply chain view that you saw previously. Again, we'll go through the same process. We'll publish that reference model directly online so that participants can use that as a training tool if they like. We will then, again, polish it up for prime time and focus it on the areas that that the conferences are focused on, both HDMA and ASHP. And again, for your company to be part of those, there are you could be an underwriter, a sponsor, or a supporter of the lab itself, or at either one of the showcases. It may be that your customers are more focused in manufacturing, and so maybe you'll take on you like to be part of the HDMA presentation. But also remember, manufacturers will be in mass at the ASHP event. So even though the event is for pharmacists, there will be manufacturers there, so you may want to consider also being part of that event. So again, just an overall picture, 2 labs, 2 showcases, or rather 4 showcases actually, that will be online and at these events. So if we look again at the simulation, what we're going to do, we're going to take this simulation again, polish it up for the event, have a focus area. This one is focused on dispensers. It'll probably be the start of what we would show at ASHP event. We're going to take a wall of monitors. Now this wall is scalable, just like the conferences are, and so we'll have a much bigger presence at ASHP, more screens, a little bit more interaction going on. HDMA is a smaller conference, again, tabletop, and depending on our conversation together as you work through the lab with us, we may take a wall of small monitors or maybe just a few, 1, 2, 3 larger monitors to do the same thing. But essentially, we'll be showing that simulation across the monitors so that we could focus on different areas, so people can stand back and look at the simulation, what's happening. Underneath there, you see that band there with the QR code. We will be scrolling information about what's taking place in that simulation. Why is that important to the audience that's at hand? And we'll also be scrolling who are the participating solution providers and their solutions. Where do they fit in this overall scheme? You see that 2-dimensional barcode there. Anybody that's standing there can click on that with their cell phone and get to your website. There will also be a brochure that will list your information and contact information, so you get 2 hits at getting through to your potential customer. As we go through funding for these labs and showcases, we will provide that information on our website, what phase we're in. Now in these ones, we're actually in the funding phases. We started that 2 weeks ago. We'll show how many backers we have, how many companies that are actually committed funds to participate. where we are in our funding levels, and how many days to go before we hit our go, no-go date. If you'd like to learn more about how to be part of the Collaboration Labs and Showcases, if you go on our website, rcpartners.biz, the Collaboration Labs, if you click here, and the Virtual Showcase, if you click here. And what you'll see is a little bit of a description of the showcase itself. In this case, it's a Collaboration Lab. You'll see that it's in the funding phase. You'll see that 51 companies, in this case, are interested in this. As we start to get people that are committing to it, you'll see how many prospectuses are under review, how many backers we have at any point in time, and where are we in gaining funding. So you have an understanding of who is also going to be in on this and the value therefore. If you'd like more information, you just click on the information sheet and you'll get our information sheet about that particular lab or showcase. If you like the prospectuses run around 15 pages or so. They form the charter of the group going forward, how we'll go forward, how we'll handle intellectual property, how we handle antitrust, how we handle our calls together, and how we create these models and move them forward. So it's a detailed document, but it will tell you how everything will occur and key dates for everything. And also, if you decide you'd like to participate, which I hope you do, you can click on that form, that link there, and the participation part of this is between our companies individually. So this is just something that comes up about the participation agreement, that we'll draw up an agreement if you're asking for one here, and we'll work that out so we get you in the lab or in the showcase. So again, just as a reminder, many events that will take place. We're looking at 2 of them this year. In 2016, we'll be looking at any number of them to be able to take the message of the supply chain, of these particular laws, and of your products to many different venues. I think it extends your ability to interact with potential clients far beyond any of our individual abilities to be at every single one of these events. This is my contact information, and we will send out this presentation to you. I'll add Harry and Ann's contact information to this, and so you can get in touch with any one of us as far as your participation in the virtual or the physical space at the showcase at ASHP. I will look at and see if we have any questions here, if anybody's typed in any. Okay, I don't have any questions, so I just want to thank you for your time today. I hope you're as excited as I am to be part of this bigger event again as we start to work together, as RC Partners and IHA have been started to work together. This really provides a much bigger benefit to all of us in making technology and its use in the healthcare industry actually occur versus being just talked about as people start to see the real use of products and services. So thank you for your time today. I hope this was interesting. Please contact me if you want more information, or go to the website for the prospectuses, and we'd be glad to help you through any questions you may have, and look forward to working with you in the collaboration labs and at the shows. So for now, I'll end this presentation. We will be repeating these presentations, so if there's other folks from your company that you'd like them to participate, we right now have scheduled for the next few weeks a presentation every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I've moved the times around a little bit so that hopefully there's a time that will work for folks no matter where you are in the country or your schedule. So please go on our website and you'll see those times that are available and how to register for the calls. Again, I'd like to say thanks to Harry and Ann for being on the phone and our partnership together. So everyone have a great day, and hopefully we'll see you as we start to work together toward these two great events.